Welcome to TSLAC's Social Media Records webinar series. Today we're going to talk about options for capturing social media records and saving them outside the platforms where they were created. Your capture strategy will depend on many factors, but we hope that this video will make you aware of some options and get you thinking about the most effective way to protect your social media government records. Please note that TSLAC cannot recommend any specific vendor or service, but we will mention some in this video as examples. There are several factors to consider when choosing a capture method, including budget, resources, and staff expertise. Bear in mind that it is totally normal to utilize a combination of methods. We suggest conducting a risk assessment to determine if the effort and cost of a method are worth the benefits it provides. Some governments produce many important records via social media, so the risk is higher. These governments would have a higher benefit for spending more on social media capture. For governments that do not produce many social media records or only post records that would be considered transitory, a more affordable capture method may be worth considering because the risk is much lower. So let's take a look at the steps included in social media capturing to better understand the different methods. Saving social media outside of original platforms is a three-part process. You first need to discover posts, then you need to capture them, then they need to be hosted or saved. So let's take a look at each step. Discovery is an important initial process that tells us what needs to be captured. Since social media is a dynamic medium, it's not always obvious what content is new or has changed. Especially if the capture portion of your process is manual, it is important to know exactly what needs to be saved in order to make your processes as efficient as possible. Capturing is the process of saving posts in a new format outside of the social media platform. There are many ways of doing this, but you want to be sure that your method captures appropriate metadata so that your records are searchable and provide necessary context. We'll go over metadata in a later video. You can either host your own social media captures or use third-party servers. Texas Records Law allows for either, but you'll want to check that any vendors you use do not violate your government's internal IT and security policies. So let's take a look at some different types of capture methods. The gold standard of social media capture is to harvest content with a crawler, store data in a web archive format like WARC, and then to view archived content within the original context by using a replay mechanism. Now, if this sounds complicated to you, the good news is that there are third-party services that can perform some or all of these steps. For instance, the Library of Congress uses Heritrix to crawl their websites and Open Wayback to store and replay content. Both services are open source, which means the cost is lower, but they require advanced IT support. Your government can also outsource the entire crawl, store, and replay process by hiring a full-service vendor. Some examples of these vendors include Archiveit and Archive Social. A search engine query for phrases like social media capture or social media archiving will show you lots of options. You can also refer to the National Archives white paper on best practices for the capture of social media records, which is linked on this video's webpage. It includes notes on several service providers. Another capture method is downloading content. Some social media platforms have built-in features that allow users to download content. This is considered a relatively high-risk capture option since platforms have no obligation to offer or continue to offer these features, and there is no guarantee that downloaded content will contain the metadata needed to completely reconstruct posts. Downloads are often offered only in incomplete or non-archival formats. And bear in mind that a new download must be done anytime content is edited or updated, for instance, when comments are posted or deleted. The final capture method we'll mention, and also the highest risk option, is the content copying method, where you copy-post content by either screenshotting or copy and pasting into a document. Screenshotting can be done manually or using a service, some of which also offer hosting services. These captured images have limited discoverability because descriptive information is not captured as metadata. Be aware that this method may not contain enough information to prove authenticity, as images and text might be easily edited. We suggest you ask your legal counsel about whether this method will be sufficient for your government's needs in case of a lawsuit. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to manually look at every social media post to see what's new. You can use an RSS aggregator to display a feed of new posts from specified websites, for instance, your government's social media accounts. If you choose to manually screenshot social media, this can help increase the efficiency of your process. Now, this isn't exactly a capture method, but it's worth acknowledging that although capturing is highly recommended, records law does not require governments to store social media records outside of platforms. Video 2 of the series goes over reasons to capture and store your posts. However, if you are considering relying on social media platforms to store your records, we suggest doing a risk assessment to determine what your social media retention periods are and the stability of the platform you use. As we mentioned earlier, if your risk is lower, it might not be worth allocating resources to expensive capture strategies. To sum up, when choosing the best social media capture method for your government, first take your risk factors and available resources into account. You have many options available, including open source software, vendor services, and manual strategies. Remember that you can get your IT staff involved to create the perfect solution for your government. You can visit our webpage for more social media records webinars on topics such as comment monitoring and policy creation, just to name a few. You can also search our blog, The Texas Record, for a variety of records and information topics, or contact your analyst for personal assistance. Thanks so much for watching.